historical bassoon. Were they different?
Oh yeah. So I mean, and this is much of what I do as a freelance bassoonist is I play on what they call period instruments. So for us, for wind players, it's usually a replica of an instrument from a specific time. So I play a lot of the Baroque bassoon, which is a bassoon modeled after ones from the era in which Bach and Telemann lived.
Yes.
And so they look very different. They have far fewer keys on them. The dimensions are a little bit different. And then there's also, as you know, the instrument evolves, so then there's a classical bassoon as well, which is sort of what we play on for music of Mozart, Haydn, that sort of era. And then we eventually work our way forward in time to this. But that's part of what I love to do, is sort of playing all this different music on the instruments that are really close to what it would have been intended for originally.
So if they have fewer keys, they're a little trickier to play, aren't they?
Yes. Yeah.
So the mechanical advances that happened in the 19th century?
Yeah. That much of them happened in sort of the mid to late 19th century, and even after the early 1900s, more things were added.
Now, is this a louder instrument than the Baroque and the classical
Yes.
ones?
So one of the things that changed over time, so if you look at a Baroque bassoon, you'll notice, especially if you look up close, that the bore, like the diameter of the bore of the entire instrument, starting from the vocal, is larger, which gives it sort of more of a velvety sound, and it blends really well with other bass instruments and string instruments, which is great because in that music, much of what the bassoon did was playing the same line as those other instruments. So you get this very beautiful sort of unified sound, but it doesn't go very far. A lot of that music was played in churches and smaller spaces, and an acoustic where it's sort of intimate, but the building itself does a little bit of the work too.
Sure.
But as time evolves and they sort of started making concert halls and larger spaces for music to be played in, the dimensions of the instrument change so that the sound can project further, and so that's why it's a narrower bore, so that you can sort of send it out with more force. And at the same time, the bassoon also becomes more of a solo instrument in an orchestra with its own independent voice from the bass instruments. So its role sort of evolves too.
It's changed.
Yeah.
You know, lots of people don't realize how even violins changed from period instruments, and that many of the great violins were remade with longer necks.
Yeah.
So that they can be played today. And so the wind instruments are the most noticeable.
Yes. Yeah. If I had both of them here, you would very much see a difference.